The hills are beautiful, but they were the site of unimaginable horror. This land is Mount Elgon. 3 years ago, there was a civil war between the Sabaot Land Defence Force, a militia, and the administration. Many people were killed. Nearly 300 people remain missing, and some of their bodies are still here. There are nearly 300 women living on this mountain who don't know where their husbands are. They disappeared between 3 and 4 years ago, either at the hands of a militia or at the hands of the Kenyan military, and they've never seen them since.
Tolewa nyumbani akaenda naye hasa alijaribu kukimbia atoroke basi ndio akachapa yeye risasi.
Jeshi.
Jeshi. Kukaa kidogo tunaona anafikishwa kwa barabara na kuwekwa kwa lori. Kufika kusimama hapo wanasema ndio ule ameendea kwa ndege juu.
They presume that their husbands are dead, but they don't have concrete proof. They've tried to go up into the forest to look for remains, to look for bones. They've asked permission from the authorities, but they were refused. They've been told to give up, to forget about it, to move on. But for many of these women, time has stopped.
Sina jawabu nzuri, lakini hali tu niwaambia baba yenu aliuawa na military wakati alikuwa ameenda kwa forest kupigania the right of the land. Lakini mimi nawaambia hata kama hatuna shamba, ndajaribu chuna chini Mungu amfungulie njia niwafunze, sababu hata Kenya leo unaweza ishi bila shamba.
Mount Elgon is a shining example of the problems of land in Kenya and also the way in which those problems have become politicized and have turned violent. Ever since the colonial period, land has been a contested issue. Those echoes reverberate even now.
Tumeishi hapa, kuishi hapa, kuanzia mababu na mababu. Sasa wakati gani tungeomba serikali ruhusa na hapa ni kwetu kuanzia zamani. Tungeomba nani? Labda tu ni Mungu peke yake ndio tunge.
The Sabaot Land Defence Force militia took up arms because they felt that they were being unfairly evicted from land that they thought was theirs. And during the insurgency, they committed pretty much every human rights abuse under the sun. They demanded taxes to pay for their activities. People who refused to pay, they would chop off their ears. I last came to this morgue 3 years ago when I was trying to find out how many bodies from the mountain had been delivered by the police. The whole mountain was in uproar. Women were going from police station to jails, to hospitals, to morgues, looking for their men who had been rounded up by the military. And there were lots of allegations that people were tortured and extrajudicially killed, and then their bodies were disappeared.
For those who, for one reason or another, believe that that kind of activity has taken place or people disappeared, they need to prove beyond reasonable doubt.
The response of the Kenyan government is really astonishing. The evidence is all around him.
Akamuita mkubwa akakuja. Akasema, mama, kama ni pension manyu. Akasema kabisa kama ni pension manyu, usahau tu mama. Tumemaliza. Akaniambia uko na watoto ngapi? Nikamwambia niko na watoto 6. Mama funga roho na uende ulisha hao watoto. Ndiyo nikachukua sasa.
The Kenyan government committed gross violations of human rights here. They don't want the truth to emerge. The Sabaot Land Defence Force also committed crimes against humanity, and they're perfectly happy for the truth to remain buried as well. Can some people who used to be in the SLDF assist the widows of Mount Elgon to find the missing people who were taken by the SLDF?
because I'm not the one who did it. Maybe if it could be the person who did it, then he could answer.
But you must know the places where the SLDF dropped bodies of people. Even the communities themselves, they know. Everybody's speaking about rumors.
So that is if there are the community or the people who know there, let them be the people who can assist.
Many of the SLDF who committed those violations are among us now. They were thrown in jail by the military, but there was no evidence, and they're back in the villages. They talked about how they had to intimidate people to vote for Fred Kapondi, the local MP for Mount Elgon. They saw him as the leader of the SLDF.
Previous election, ilikuwa whether you like, you dislike, ungepiga kura kwa Kapondi. Kama mimi nimepiga kura 13 for one person.
Of course, it suits Fred Kapondi too for the truth to remain buried.
People lost their lives in Mount Elgon. But life must continue. Do we need to mourn about it every day?
The SLDF dumped lots of bodies up in the mountain. The military, when it crushed the SLDF insurgency, did the same thing. Somewhere up there are between 200 and 300 dead people.
Walikuwa wanatuambia walikuwa wanaenda kurusha kwa milima.
Na una habari kwamba je, umekwenda mlimani kutafuta?
Ni watu wengi tulitaka tukwenda huko wenye watu wetu hatukupata, lakini walitunyima kwenda kwa milima huko.
Jeshi. We visited one site at a place called Kimama, where it was rumored people had been disposed of by the SLDF. Local people had reported human remains in a field that they had been tilling. So we went there and found the remains of 2 bodies. When they were cutting this shamba is when they found the remains, the bits of remains. The main impediment to accessing any of these grave sites is the presence of the military. Until the government undertakes a proper exercise, discovers the sites and exhumes them, the widows of Mount Elgon are sitting in limbo. Kwa unafikiri itafika siku ambapo utajiweza kuwasamehe au unafikiri huwezi hata siku moja kuwasamehe?
Nitawasamehe.
Utawasamehe, lakini huyu anasema
Utawasamehe kwa sababu na uchungu.
Kwa
sababu nikiona watoto vile wanateseka na wamenitegemea mimi mwenyewe na sina chochote, sitawasamehe.
It's very distressing to come back 3 years later and still see that nothing much has changed, that the widows are living cheek by jowl with the people that disappeared their husbands. On the one hand, the SLDF militia, on the other hand, the military bases are still there. They're still patrolling the forest to make sure that the truth doesn't get out. How long can a community live in denial without truth, with all of these ghosts under their feet?
Si ingali tu ni kama chanzo tu ni pale pale, hata ni kama yule alipata na yule hajapata, atasema kwa nini huyu alipata na mimi sijapata na mimi pia nilikuwa pale. Inaweza sababisha tena.
The Kenyan government has shown it's totally unwilling to deliver justice for these people. This is what the International Criminal Court was set up for. It was established so that people who could not get justice through their own governments would have an alternative. And it seems, yet again, in Mount Elgon, the only way for these people to access justice is through the International Criminal Court. Ni haki maanake nini kwako?
Yaani ukweli.
Ukweli.